continue to push towards the end of our goal of getting this updated report out. And as I was sharing with the Illinois Environmental Council this morning, that is not the end by any way, shape, or form, right? It just means that we then, the task force transitions to implementing and going forward on many of the recommendations that we've laid out in this updated plan. So today I know we want to continue to hear what it's going to take to finalize the updated report that we have that we can submit to all of our leaders. So what we still need to have to do that, talk briefly about some of the outreach comments that we got back, and then talk about a general release and announcement. I know we've gotten an offer from the Department of Ag to maybe do that through the Soil and Water Conservation Districts. So we'll want to talk about that and then review our schedule going forward. So with that, I want to turn it back over to Wes.
Yes, thank you, Lauren. So as you see on the agenda, we have a new item that we typically have not had before, something that we're just trying to maybe make our meeting documentation a little more official, and that is the approval of the minutes. So you all should have received via email the last meeting's minutes, as you see on the screen here. So as you may be familiar with other meetings, we're going to ask for someone to move to approve the meeting minutes, and then we'll need a second, and then we'll go through an official vote of approving the meeting minutes from September 19th. So if I could get somebody to unmute and make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
So moved, Wes. This is Michael Woods.
All right, it is moved by Michael. Can I get a second?
And Tara McFarland.
All right, thank you, Tara. And I will move to vote now. All in favor of approving the meeting minutes, you can either raise your hand or say aye through the audio. Those in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? If you'd repeat, nay. All right, so moves. It appears we have the quorum of the State Water Supply Task Force, and the meeting minutes have been officially approved. Thank you all. We're going to go back to the agenda just briefly and just discuss it, kind of walk through it real briefly, if it allows me to. Maybe I need to share two. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Just a quick run through of today's agenda. We'll hopefully move through the meeting pretty quickly. We have items still needed from the topic leaders. We'll discuss public outreach comments. Also discuss, as Lauren alluded to, the Soil and Water Conservation Roundtable and Report Release Coordination. We'll go through another schedule review and discuss next meeting dates and kind of what we're looking at now that we're kind of entering this new phase of what will be post-release. So Tara, I believe I will stop sharing my screen and turn it over to you for discussion of item 3.
Okay, Wes, can you see my screen here with some orange on it?
Yep, okay. We got you coming through. Great.
All right. Well, this is a summary of what we sent after last month's meeting of what we still need to get done. And I am trying to track what people have done. So if I missed something that you sent me, I apologize. Just let me know and you'll get updated and you'll get a nice blank clear screen or square with a yes in it. So I'm just going to go item by item. We do need a list of your committee members or anyone that's helped you write your section. And I recognize that some groups might not have committees, and that's fine. We understand. But what we would like to see is if you have had some input or stakeholders or anyone has come out and you've included some of their recommendations, I just want to make sure they're part of the acknowledgements. So while I'm on this topic, though, I just wanted to mention that if you don't have a committee, now might be the time to think about forming one. Obviously, the next phase that Wes just talked about was implementation. And certainly these different leaders, task leaders, and you're listed here. We have our 13 topics, and each topic has a leader. And I don't want any one of those leaders to have to bear responsibility for the entire remaining work. So I would just suggest if we go back to the website, we do have a list of lead agencies, but we also had some supporting agencies. So it might be a good place for you to look out and see what agencies are supposed to be supporting your particular topic, and just try to reach out to find someone from those different agencies to support and be part of your committee. And the other thing I wanted to mention was a while back, the different environmental groups had requested to sit on different committees. And I do have a list here that I'm showing of I mean, this is a couple years ago, so I can't say that all these people still want to be on your committee, but if you're really reaching and trying to get across different fields and expertise, I can send out this list if you're starting to form a committee. And as always, as we go forward, all those tasks or those recommendations that we're publishing in the report, we are going to be doing those status reports and showing the measurable amounts of work that we've completed. So I just strongly encourage. We can't require anyone to have a committee, but you know, there are a lot of people looking at this state water plan. As Lauren mentioned, he's been talking to people. I know I gave a presentation last week. So did Steve. Wes has been giving presentations on the progress of the state water plan. So there are definitely groups out there that are aware of it, and it's just going to be continuing. So anything, Wes, or have any comments on committees?
No, just note that we will kind of have to identify that in the report. So if we have a topic that doesn't have a committee, just know that that may not look favorable on the topic lead, and they may question why you didn't reach out to anybody. I know there are some topic leads that kind of already had essentially a committee that didn't go by necessarily that name. Maybe they had watershed groups or something like that they're already working with. But we'd encourage you to list them if that's the case. You know, we will have to include this information in the report. So if you don't send us anything, there's going to be a big, probably just put none in parentheses, and that's how it will be published. Just won't look as favorable if we had a committee listed out. So I know there's some on here that have a committee that haven't responded, and there may be some that still need to look to develop a committee. Just a quick shift. Michael Woods, I see you got your hand raised. Do you need something, or does it just, okay. don't hesitate just to speak out if you guys want to interject or have a comment or question or anything. So that's just, I want to reiterate that with these things, with these items, a lot of this will show up in the report, and if nothing's provided, it may not be as ideal as far as the aesthetics of how that appears to the public when it's published.
And Tara, probably just plan to go ahead and send out that list you were just showing, I think, to everybody, just as a reminder.
I will do. And it looks like Laura had a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted this. I mean, I have the list of, and I think I sent it to you a while ago. I can resend for sure. Of the committee that worked on the stream data management topic. Are you also talking about a committee moving forward to kind of just keep the momentum going and listing that in the state plan? I'm trying to figure out the difference.
I really don't know the difference because I had for my category, flood damage mitigation, I had a committee that helped me write the section, and we were meeting quite regularly to discuss updates, and I would bring back task force meeting minutes and talk to my committee about what we were developing, and we all worked together to develop our section. And then I was planning, and we've already talked as a committee that we're going to continue meeting possibly bi-monthly at the beginning, just to make sure we're implementing our recommendations.
Okay.
So I don't think I answered your question exactly,
No,
but
no.
you know, that's where I see my group going.
Yeah, no problem. That answers my question.
Or I would just recommend that it be whoever assisted you in developing the recommendations for the committee. They're the one who helped form your section of the report. So that would be who I would include in that request. And then it's kind of at your decision if you want to continue to keep those individuals in the loop or help them work in implementing some of those recommendations. I know for water sustainability, our committee likely will be still moving forward to help implement some of the recommendations in the report.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And I would just add, if you look at this row, and I'll send this out after the meeting, that if you have a yes in your column with your name, that I've received it. So, you know, there's quite a few groups that I know have committees that have not sent it to me, so that's an easy fix. But I do understand that some were pulled into this late in the game and they might not have a fully formed committee. That's why I'm suggesting you might reach out now and just get one started. And like Les said, there might not be as much of a gap if we have to show no participants. So any other questions on the committee members? Okay, and I know the next item would be that the photos. And first I'll say I sent this out last time. We do have some due by dates and most everything's overdue, but just to let everyone know, we just got our public comments summarized and I'll be sending those out. They're posted today and we'll talk about those in a minute. But we'll be talking about the full schedule, but I am going to give you till the end of this month, till the 31st, Halloween, to send me to do all the remaining items. So, and we can talk about that more when we do the schedule, but I'll probably be updating this due by, everything's going to be due by the 31st. So that said, photos, I know I talk about photos a lot, but it really does add a lot to interest to the report. And so what I would suggest for each section, Laura just sent me something, what I wanted to say at the beginning of each section. Remember I had that picture on the very front. I'm sorry, it's taking me a little bit to load this PDF. It's sort of large. But the idea was that each section would have an introductory photograph at the beginning, and I've received just 2 so far. So if you could look through your, check with your coworkers, check with your different agency or your department, and just see if there's a good picture that's representative of your section. That would be the very minimum of what I'd like to see. These were all things that I just found online. Some of them are pertinent, but I think it just adds a little bit more to the report if it is something, a real photograph about a real problem for your section. And that said, the other thing I wanted to mention was sometimes, as you know, when you're paginating a report, there are some gaps. So Water Quality had sent me some great pictures, so I used those. But sometimes at the end of a section, I've got a big gap. So again, I may have put a picture in there for now as a placeholder, just to fill in that gap. But I would really strongly, if it's not a picture that you sent me and you're wondering why that picture's in there, just that's a signal for you to send me something that might be more applicable to your section. And so, yeah, I really strongly encourage it because it really adds to the flavor of the report. And I don't know what else to say, but I really would appreciate it if you just even look through some of your field visits. Again, from your coworkers, a lot of people take pictures when they're out. I just think it would really enhance the report. So any other comments on photos? Okay, the next item that we'll talk about is that measurable results table. And I am going to remind everybody that all this information is posted in the OneDrive account, and you should be able to all the leaders have been shared this OneDrive account. And within the folder, I guess if you were to enter your OneDrive, I'm seeing more because I share more files, but there is one just called State Water Plan Shared File, so you should have access to that. And within that OneDrive, I've got all the word sections of all the word versions of all the sections. So this is a way for all of us to work on them together, and anyone can open those. They can read a section, they can add notes. They should all have track changes on, but if not, before you add anything, turn on track changes. So, and I don't want to make anyone feel like I'm Big Brother, but I can tell if you've looked in your section, you can see Laura was real active as much as 3 days ago. And it tells me, I get an email when someone's been working on it. So, like I said, it will help me, it helps me track as to who's actually been making changes to their section. But for an example, I'm just walking you through, if you open up the shared OneDrive file, it's just like regular. You click on the file that you want to open, and Laura had track changes on, and you should get a little note that says track changes enabled. But if for some reason it is not, you just go to the review section just like you would in Word, and you just click on track changes and just say for everyone. And within this screen, you can type in and you'll see things get underlined or in color, and it actually tells everybody, everyone gets a different color. So it tells who worked on it. But the other thing you can do is if you read somebody's section and you have a question, you can just add a comment, and it tells who the comment's from, and then that person can actually respond. So again, it's a way to communicate. We're nearing the end, but it really would be, I'm just walking you through in case that's what's limiting people from going online and looking at these. But so that said, I'm going to go ahead and open up our I think I have it, the cross check. So this was what we were trying to do, because we know, as Lauren and Wes have mentioned, now we're going to the next phase of the State Water Plan, where we're going to be still meeting as a task force. Committees are still going to be meeting, and the idea is to implement as many recommendations as we get support and or funding, or at least get things started. And we are going to be planning to publish and update the website quite frequently with the status. And so this might, I will say I sent this out last month, and I had 6 people that had filled it out, and I only got 1 more new person. So we definitely need you to fill this out. And really, this is a tool for you to use, and it's to your benefit, because when you develop your recommendations, you have to be able to have it phrased, or at least within internally understand how you're going to provide a status report. So eventually, the end of the reason I'm really harping on this is at the end of the day, our status reports are going to be this column, is how will I measure progress. And I'll go ahead and pull down. The first one is Wes. He's our guinea pig. But the idea is his status report is going to have a list of his recommendation, and it's actually going to say he's going to track the percentage of underserved versus the normal community served. That was his recommendation, and this is how he's tracking it. And this will be in the status report. So I really need everybody to think about this and why we need to do it now. Number one, just so we're ready to move forward and when that next step happens. But now's your chance to, maybe your recommendation isn't phrased in exactly a way that is measurable. maybe you've taken on too much. And when you really think about how are you going to show you've done progress, that you might not be able to. So you might need to refine it slightly and make it more of a pilot program or a smaller project. This is really your last chance, because you know, the leaders that are involved and all your committee members, somebody wants to show progress, and you're going to be responsible for showing that you did or didn't make progress. So I know I harp on this, but like I said, there's still quite a few gaps, and on my table, or I guess my original table of measurable, we've got about half done, but there's definitely, and if I put partial in there, that means you still had a few gaps. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention about this particular comment is I went through, and people are doing good. I put on here red font or maybe some suggested changes. And then blue font, I'll go a little further down. Blue font is I did move a couple things that I thought, well, that's not really something we can measure. So you might want to revise it. And I also went through and, moved some things. And so I'm trying to make notes. And if other people are looking at this, they can follow that same format, because unfortunately in Excel, it's not that easy to track changes. But I think I'm not sure if everyone's understanding when we say measure, how are you going to measure? And again, I think Wes did a good job, because if he has a study, he's going to be able to show how much progress he's made by a % complete. So a lot of times it's going to be, how much funding did you get? If we ask for funding, you're going to put your measurable result is how much funding you received or how much backlog there is. So they're pretty simple things to do. Lake Michigan did a great job of being able to track what they're completing. They did have a few gaps, so I just highlighted those in orange. The other one, maybe I'm not picking on anybody ever, but Steve, you had some good ideas, and I just maybe made them a little bit more trackable. So for an example, he's actually going to review the Water Use Act and see what things that were done in the past haven't yet been completed. So he was just going to ensure implementation, basically. But I'm saying he could present a summary report that says how much have they reviewed that, how much is his report done. This one is he was going to develop a group about water reuse. So one way to track that is how many meetings did you have for the year? Anything like that to show progress and where you stand. So hopefully this helps a little bit. Hopefully this explanation helps people understand what we're looking for. But I'm going to go ahead and open it up. Like I said, there's certainly some groups that still have to fill in this. And I guess I'm asking if I'm guessing most people just haven't had time. That's understandable, and I know that that's probably the case for the majority. But if anyone had questions, now is your time to ask or reach out to me afterwards, and I can help someone fill out their section. So
Boy, Tara, I thought I was going to have to be the bad guy, but you're doing a pretty good point out. No, but this is important. Like I said, we can think about this later, but this will be the next meeting where we will start talking about these percentages. And we're not going to have much to show if everybody's kind of looking at each other and saying, well, yeah, we did that, but if we have no way to measure it. So this is keenly important. I do see a question from Laura about if we're talking about % complete in 1 year. It kind of depends on what the goal is. If you have an annual goal of doing something so much per year, then yeah, it may be % complete in that 1 year. If it's something like a milestone of completing a task that's not really measured by time, then I would think it would be a holistic % complete. Say if I have a report that I want to develop, then it would be what % of that report is complete, or how far along are we in the process of completing that report. And it's not really a per year items. So I hope that clarifies that question, Laura.
Okay, I'm just leaving it open if there's any other questions.
Yeah, hey Tara, could you pull up mine a second on navigation and just, and I'm gonna, if you're available, maybe Thursday, I'll give you a ring, and go through these just so I can finalize them. But I know you've made some changes to mine and maybe get some guidance on how I can measure these. Um, uh, or maybe you've already got.
So
Yeah.
I'll just start. And this it is tricky because the column is how will I measure progress, and you were just going to say that what you are doing is how you would do the process. You would actually review your budget, and you're going to compare, at least for this first one, and compare it to the backlog. And so you're going to be doing that. That's how you're going to measure it. So I get that that's what you're saying, but at the end of the day, what are you going to put in your status report? So I moved it over here. This is actually what you're doing. You're going to review the expenditures and you're going to compare it to backlog, and you're going to annually review these reports. But then I thought at the end of the day, you're really going to present, like we're going to know how much this is maybe what you report. Another way you could have done this, and I wasn't sure, was if you're going to annually review these reports, you could do a percent complete of how much you've reviewed the reports. Are you 50% done reviewing the reports? But I don't know enough about your recommendation. So
Well,
these
yeah,
are
yeah.
all suggestions. They're not have to be changed.
Right. No. And that's, you're right. I mean, what our thought was that we would do a needs assessment annually with like the port districts and see, you know, what we get. Let's say we get $100 million of need assessment, but we only have a $5 million program. Obviously that's, you could put in a percentage of program versus needs. Again, I'm just trying to satisfy the box. So, and just try to be honest.
I'll say, yeah, I would get hung up on it has to be a percentage. Maybe it's we spent this amount of money or we completed this many reports. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a completed so many or a percent complete.
Okay. All right. So if we do, so let's just, for example, let's say we did 3 port master plans and we funded $15 million worth of capital needs. So how would you word the measure in that respect?
Yeah, so I don't know if you have an annual goal of how much to spend or how much, you know, if you have a budget every annual year for this type of work, if you kind of have a goal of, you know, expending this amount or having this many master plans. I know that may vary year to year, and maybe that changes, and that measurable goal gets adjusted from time to time based on the budget given that year or something along those lines, if this is something that we see that's reoccurring.
Okay.
And BJ, I was going to bring forward recreation. That's where I grabbed the ideas for yours because I was struggling with yours too. And then when I saw that they had expand funding, you know, and so they just said they're going to measure progress for how much additional funding or expanded funding they get for that program. So when I went back up to yours, the very first one was maintain and upgrade infrastructure. So I thought, well, that's going to be maybe funding. You know, how much funding did you get to do that? But it's not that simple. Obviously, you know your recommendation way more than I do. I was just trying to make it something so that you could easily report how much you've completed of your task. So you can ignore my comments if they don't make sense at all.
Oh, they make total sense. I think I'm the one that's confused. I'll get it finished. Thank you.
All right, so this one was fairly easy. I'm just going to, again, pick on BJ because he requested me to. But utilize dredge material and infrastructure projects. So this would be a good thing just to tell how much quantity of dredge material got reutilized. And he does talk about a little bit more identifying some of the uses of where to put that. And maybe that could be listed in the status of some backlog of places that could be considered in the future. So anyway, I know every recommendation is tricky. It's just, again, the more you think about it now and within your committee or within your group, it's going to make your job easier. And you don't want to have to struggle and think later, if only I'd rephrased my recommendation so I wouldn't have to go through this big effort. So hopefully it helps. But any other comments? Okay, the next section are stakeholder comments, and we did receive those in July, and those were posted right after. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
had muted, but Lauren made a good point that I wanted to share with the group is that we realize that sometimes some of these recommendations may be out of our control. Laura had a question about funding, and it may just be that we're waiting on approval or funding or legislature or something like that, and we can just say that in our status updates. So sometimes the ball goes into somebody else's court that's beyond our control, and we know that's going to come up and be an issue. And, you know, that's why we have 150 recommendations, and we don't anticipate all 150 will all be moving forward all the time. So just want to make sure I note that to the group, that we'll encounter those scenarios as it comes up. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, not at all. And that's a good point, and the same with staffing. You know, there's a lot of recommendations that require new programs with new staffing. And if that hasn't been approved yet, that would be your status report. So hopefully that helps. Okay, so our next is stakeholder review comments. And I had sent this out, and basically it's a table. It tells who the stakeholder is and the comment. So this was a combined, we took all the comments and put them together. But if at any point, if anybody has, wants to look at the actual review comments, so again, you go to the OneDrive, there's a folder called Review Comments, and you click on that, and we have this combined public. I'm just gonna sort of talk about public and stakeholder together. So we have a combined public and a stakeholder spreadsheet. And, but within each one of these subfolders are the original public review comments. Sorry, I think I accidentally just opened one. If it's not clear enough in the summary table, all the comments are also listed here. So if you're looking for the original. So the stakeholders comments are all here as well, and you can always go there if you just want to, maybe something got translated incorrectly and you want to go directly to the source. But I knew nobody wanted to open up all these and look at these and decide if every single comment was related to them. So the idea was to look here. I did try to assign a topic and then who should address it. And I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. So this table, again, everyone can look at it at the same time. If you want to go through and decide, you know, which one am I required to address, we do have this sortable table so that you can just click on that arrow. And right now, you would undo all the clicks and you would just look for Wes Couture's name. Sometimes his name might show up with someone else. So we would just look for any of those that have Wes, because now I'm going to pick on Wes. I'm done with BJ for a while. I may have missed something because I'm looking quickly. But the idea, then you apply, and then only the comments that Wes has been assigned show up. So it's a quick way for you to see which ones you need to address. And when I say need to address, it's at least read it. We recognize that some of the recommendations are adding a new recommendation. Some of the review comments say, oh, you didn't address this. And I had that in a few times, and I would just say, yes, that's a good point. It didn't rise to the top. We'll put it on the committee's list to be addressed in future iterations of the report. So that could be the response. The response could be, and Wes is pretty clear that sometimes no, I don't agree. I'm not going to make this change. That is still a response. So it's not, you don't have to do all these recommendations. And this goes for both the stakeholders and the public. I would just suggest that people have taken the time. There are some very good ideas. There are some recommendations or response review comments that could enhance a section or it might make something clearer. And I just think it would be, again, a good use of your time to review through these. And even if you don't agree and you just don't want to make those changes, that's fine, but just document that. I will note that I had another column over here called notes, and sometimes I would write a note to somebody to say, hey, this comment might not really be a comment that you can address, but it might have some good text that you could pull into your section because they phrased it really nicely, or it might be a way to make something clearer. So in general, I didn't put comments here that were just copy editing because I'll be taking care of those. But copy editing, meaning just checking tenses and things like that for your report. At any point, you should be making those in your section. But these ones are a bit above and beyond just a normal change to the spelling of something. So again, the other comment I'll make is I besides just this column with your name, I'm going to undo this because when I think sometimes we just had some comments over here, of course. So here I maybe made a note that we just need to coordinate. So there might be more than one person on an item. So I leave it to those people to coordinate in a response. And I guess right now is if your name is the lead, you have to respond. But if I've misassigned it, you can change that name, but you really should somehow note to that person that needs to be responded by them. So I know I just went over a lot of information. There's a lot of comments. There are some duplications. Different groups had similar type comments. The idea is when you see your name, you give me a response, and then you also, this is more for you, that did you make your correction? And the intent is, if you want to make the change, you go to your individual Word section that's in OneDrive, you make the change. Unless you need me to make it, then make a note, but that's fine. But this is really more to track for yourself if you've completed it. A lot of people go through and say, oh yeah, I'm gonna fix that, I'm gonna fix it. But did you? That's your way to cross-check. So I will quickly show you there's the similar type of table for the public, and we did just get those summarized last week. So those are posted right now. Same thing, there's a comment. I tried to assign somebody and just go through those. These are maybe a little more, I would say the stakeholder ones, just by nature, are a little bit more overarching and have some really good suggestions. The public, you just take it for what it is. One comment I thought was really good, and we got it a couple times, is we do have a really large group of stakeholders, but we might be missing some of those constituency groups like Ducks Unlimited and different, besides just our environmental groups. So that might be something we think about when we move forward with the implementation, just to bring them in on some committees, just to get a different perspective. So again, all the comments, they're all good. People took the time. Wes and I are in disagreement a little bit because, you know, some of their comments are too late in the game, and it's way too late to add a new recommendation. But just consider, you know, read them, and if it's a way to make your section better, make it clearer, that's all I can suggest at this time. Or if it's something, a recommendation, and you're the leader, and you think, yeah, that's a good one, we didn't think of it, and it's really, you know, we have too many to implement, but just make sure you add that to your list for the next update of the State Water Plan. Or, as Wes has suggested, sometimes as things emerge over the next 10 years or so between when we do the next update, the website, we might say, hey, this particular recommendation doesn't really apply anymore. It got fixed, or it just isn't an issue anymore, but we'd rather include this new one. So just take them for what they are. So any questions on the tables for the review comments? And you can see there's quite a few people for stakeholder and public that have not been addressed. Okay, so the other item that I wanted to mention was the last time that we probably met in June, and when I first put the report together, we had these ongoing sections in the report, and people were going back and forth, giving each other comments. Sorry, I can't quite see everything on this table, but when we were going back and forth, we had the June comments. So I kept that old version because sometimes people were talking back and forth and they were writing comments, but at the end of the day, I had to combine it, and some comments that people were asking each other had not been addressed, but I had to delete them all so that I could print a nice copy. So what you might do is just open up your section in that June and just see if there's any comments that you might need to address or clarify. I just opened up mine. I'm not seeing any right on this section. But so that's what that means. I'm just saying to go back to your old June version, make sure that that you've addressed all your fellow task force questions. If they have a question and you don't understand it, reach out to them. And again, this is our last chance to make sure that we've got everything accomplished. And then if you do need to make a change, just make a change in that version on OneDrive. Because at the end of on October 31st, I'm just going to pull all those and hope that they're ready to go. I'll accept the changes and they should be good to go. So any questions on what this particular comment meant? All right, so after this meeting, I will send out this table, and as I receive the information, I'll keep it updated. Or maybe I'll post this on OneDrive, but I will send it out as an email, just so you can track what you still need to do. And if after this call you're still confused, just give me a call anytime. I'll put my phone numbers in the emails I send, but that's all I had, Wes, for right now for what's still remaining. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but that will come up.
Well, thank you, Tara. I know there's a lot to cover, and we're all kind of rushing to the finish line as we're coming here to kind of a conclusion to this extensive effort. We've been going about this since the beginning of 2019, I think, maybe even dating back to the late 2018. We got some delays in there with COVID, and we really want to kind of make sure this is, got a nice polish to the end of the report. And Tara, you've done a great job pulling this all together and keeping us on our toes over here and keeping up to date. So again, I just want to kind of, motivate everybody to make sure that, a lot of these things may only take an hour or so of your time to address these comments just quickly, or to look at your measurable goals and make sure that they're ready to go. We want to provide the best finished product we can as we kind of come to this finish line. So I just want to kind of, again, stress the importance of making a little time in the next 2 weeks to, put the bow on your section, make sure it's all taken care of and wrapped up and everything, and make sure that we get a good product come November. So next item of discussion was the Soil and Water Conservation District roundtables. I know that Michael, you've been working a little bit with Lauren on this, and you guys have been having some discussions. Michael, do you want to kind of give a quick overview of what this really entails, if you don't mind?
Sure, absolutely, Wes. I appreciate that. I think that what happened was a couple meetings ago, Chris Davis, I believe, had shared about maybe partnering with a nonprofit, and I may be putting words into Chris's mouth. I just know someone did. And so I had reached out to Les and said, would the Soil and Water Conservation District Association be a viable partner for helping to facilitate this? They're an ideal natural partner for us on every aspect of this entire plan. And so I had just proposed that maybe we could look at hosting something in partnership with them and see what they could assist with.
Yeah, and Lauren?
I was just going to say, were you thinking, I think in your concept, you talked about like a legislative breakfast or something to that extent, some sort of a legislative event where we get an opportunity to kind of in person highlight some of the points of the report, or just how to even look at the report.
Yeah, sorry about that, Lauren. Yeah, definitely. So what I was proposing is maybe that we could ask our colleagues at the Association of Soil and Water Conservation District to host some sort of a breakfast or a roundtable or an after hours activity during legislative session, one of the sessions, and invite legislators to come down for like a 1 hour window where they either got breakfast and we had someone, Wes, Lauren, someone presenting maybe on behalf of the committee and the panel to share the release of the state water plan and maybe featuring specific points. I know, Wes, on your tour around the state, you had some really good, insightful slides that sort of hit some of the key points of how many recommendations and all these kind of things. And so I was just thinking this might be a nice group to align with, to assist in navigating, bringing our legislators together for us.
Yeah, I guess we think it was a great idea, Michael. I guess we wanted to bring it before the group. Lauren, you said you also reached out to the governor's office and they were okay with essentially a press release type thing. So we didn't really have too much interest outside of what Michael's sharing. So we thought this would be a great opportunity, a great way to introduce the state water plan to the public. Lauren, was there anything else that you wanted to kind of mention on that?
No, I mean, just like you've said, right? We reached out to the governor's office. Hey, do you want to do any kind of a hoopla, take advantage of the fact that we're putting a bow on this, in an election year, any of that kind of stuff. And they were good with, yeah, we should definitely do, a press release and, proud of the group and excited. And so to me, that was, they weren't planning on, basically a ribbon cutting of the of the plan, right? Other than by doing it via standard press release. So I do like more of an event tied with it, besides just the traditional cover letter and submitting the report officially. We do that, for example, as probably many of you do, right? We're required to file reports when we spend state dollars in many instances. So we'll file this plan, like we do many of our reports with the state library and the, all the elected offices and blah, 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 right? And so we'll follow that standard, but to have an event that really draws attention to it beyond a press release, media kind of a thing, I think serves the plan well.
And I, without being like a Debbie Downer or something, I think there's too often amazing initiatives like this put forward that don't get the hoopla that they deserve in order to get that support so that we can achieve all those goals that Tara just outlined for us, right? I mean, too often state employees, we can't do some things, they're out of our hands, but having an outside group partnering with us to help shed the light on this amazing resource and the fact that it's been so many years that this is even being addressed during a turbulent time of addressing climate change and other variables that are going to guide every single section within this plan. I think it's fitting to look at how do we become a little more engaged with our public in sharing this wonderful story.
And I guess as we continue that approach, right, that we could, I think we've gotten similar interest from the Nature Conservancy, certainly, the Environmental Council in general, that they would, if the Soil and Water Conservation District wanted some other partner sponsors, we could probably investigate or go down that road as well, because there's some of those entities that have been engaged in many of our committees, and they also have that kind of an opportunity to come in as a non-state agency and help make something happen. So,
would that be concerning to have some stakeholder groups, sponsors, that may be contradictory position-wise to other stakeholders that may not be mentioned? I'm wondering if we had like the Environmental Council as a sponsored stakeholder and Farm Bureau goes, well, wait a minute, why are they sponsoring this? We're not, and it could lead to contention. I'm just kicking that out to the group to see if there's a concern with that, is that if someone's left out or not invited to be a sponsor, is there a concern, or should this strictly be a government entity type initiative as we kind of do our ceremonial ribbon cutting of the report?
You definitely make a good point, Wes, and I think that's worth noting. Always trying to keep teams together, right? You don't want to offend anybody. I would say the association, the beauty of it is that the Soil and Water Conservation District system is funded through, the Partners for Conservation Act that we administer here in the Department of Ag. And so at least they are, affiliated strongly with our initiatives and specifically around soil and water. But definitely when you start opening up to other groups, you might hurt some feelings. I could see that.
Yeah, and I wasn't as concerned about the soil and water because they kind of have that government funding. I'm not an expert on soil and water conservation districts, but I can definitely see where we've had some stakeholders butting heads on some of these recommendations, which is good. We should be kind of seeing that conflict as we kind of want to push forward. Otherwise, we're not pushing enough. So I'm definitely in favor of this opportunity that you're presenting. I just wanted to throw out if we should have some kind of restriction on it or not. But I guess the first question is everybody in favor of, utilizing this roundtable opportunity? I guess, do we want to kind of throw it to a vote, or if anybody has any objections, speak now or hold your peace kind of thing?
Do we open it up for sponsors, right? Do we put a little more meat on the bones, I guess, Michael, of what an event would look like, and then open it up for saying, hey, the task force is planning, this kind of an event. Would your entity be interested in, sponsoring, help promoting, and then we just, we could have flyers or whatever, a table stand that, like we do at professional conferences, that, that these entities, these people were, help sponsor this event to promote the plan,
One thing nice about that, Wes, is that it may show a strong base across the state of interested NGOs and whatnot, organizations. I think if you offer it up to people and they so choose not to participate, that's on them then. You can't say that they didn't get an invitation to participate, but it would cost, right? Because we know if we do a breakfast or something, we would need someone to foot that bill because we wouldn't be able to do that.
Right, we still need, right, we need like a soil and water conservation district or somebody that would, you know, or the Association of Floodplain Managers or somebody that serves as the banker, right?
Yeah. And I will admit, I have not had a full conversation with Grant Hammer, the association's executive director, to flush this out with him. I've been waiting to see what the will of the group would be. If the will of the group is to proceed accordingly, I would definitely have that conversation and then could circle back to the group via Wes and share some ideas that they may have.
Michael, is there any concern of timeline? I think we're gonna get into the schedule, but I think we're tentatively planning a November 15th release or somewhere about that. I don't know if one day of the week would be better, but essentially that middle of the month. Is there any concern of pulling this together that quickly?
Well, that's a good question. I think we'd need to find out when legislative sessions are. I know they have two sessions coming up, I believe, don't they? One at the lame duck session after the election. I don't know that answer right off the top of my head, Wes. I would need to clarify, but I would think something could be pulled together. And it could be that we release it and not have the full activity during the next legislative session, so that it allows then the legislators to come together and learn about it when people start putting forward requests and so forth down the road. They know what it's coming from, right? That they're getting a little bit of a heads up.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody knows the actual legislative schedules.
Yeah, I just look at Lauren whenever we start talking about these topics.
I don't think it has to be on the day, right?
No,
You know,
yeah.
so I agree with you, Michael, that, you know, we can, again, we'll be sending out the official cover letter and almost like filing a report like many of us do. But then having the event doesn't have to be on that day, but it can be in the season or, you know, whenever it works appropriately for the legislators to say, hey, this just came out, you know, recently. So.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know, Lauren, when I believe they have something coming up here shortly, and then they have the lame duck session, and then they go into the next. I just don't recall the actual session times. I know
I'll find out
what session coming up next.
Yeah, I'll get those dates and I can get it back out to the group.
Okay.
Just throwing out to the group, does anybody have any concern with moving forward in this direction?
This is Tara, and I'm just getting a little confused. I know our audience is a General Assembly. We need support and we need funding. So the intent of this particular meeting is to invite those different General Assembly members to find out more about the State Water Plan, because I got a little confused when we talked about the whole public and publicity. You know, we're not inviting the public to this lunch. This is just for our target audience, correct?
That's how I would see it, Tara, is that the event for the legislators is to help educate them about, you know, what's coming forward. And then when they see future legislation that's maybe presented by our various partners throughout the state, that they understand where this fits into the grand scheme of things.
That's good, thank you. That's where I'd like to see it go. I just wanted to make sure we weren't trying to do too much.
I think the public release would be more the PR publicity, right, Lauren?
Yeah, the press release and putting that out in the media that it's there, and we may get, you know, specific requests, just like we have through the process of, could you come and speak to our group about what this water plan is and how you're going forward?
Yeah, for the rest of the group, we put on at least probably, I'm guessing, a dozen easy, maybe approaching 24 public outreaches on this at various levels and degrees. So we anticipate there'll be opportunities for that after the release. So I think there will be opportunity to reach out to the public, but this specific event would be focused to the General Assembly.
Yeah, I guess my thought would be just like with our outreach, right, to do public, we'd almost have to do like the outreach, right? We'd almost have to schedule them across the state and so forth. So we may be better served to see who comes forward and says, hey, our constituency, our interest group is interested in getting that presentation.
Yeah, and I quickly thought about, do we have a release presentation of some sort? And then I realized, A, we don't need to go in person based on the turnout we've had whenever we had in-person meetings. They're definitely lackluster. The vast majority of the attendees were virtual. And the second thought I had is that I don't know, in sharing this, unless we had a 4-hour presentation, it would look a lot like our third outreach where we're just summarizing. And I don't think that it's going to be drastically different from what we had during that public outreach to what the final product is. Maybe a few of the numbers will change, but it would look drastically similar to that third public outreach. So I don't know if we need to take the initiative to hold any kind of official public meeting because it hasn't.
Right. Yeah, and to me, we'd be better served. I mean, now that the General Assembly, we have our focus on how we want them to view and use the report. But we've built a big elephant. I mean, if you want to call it that, right? And so to say, well, we're going to have like a recreation group, right? Well, how much does the recreation group care about the soil and water erosion? Maybe, maybe not. And so there's so many specific. Well, there's 13 focus areas, right? And so my guess is that different entities will come up and want to know more specific about what the plan includes on water sustainability or navigation or recreation, And to deal with, well, here's the whole elephant, then we diminish the value of presenting on what's in there for recreation. So.
So not hearing any objection, I anticipate we will move forward with that. Michael Woods and Lauren Wolbig will kind of coordinate to see that event through and know if you have any stakeholders that have a request to have some kind of presentation. We would definitely like to involve the topic lead that best corresponds to that group with. But we can also, myself, Tara, or Lauren may be available to assist in that presentation as well. So we definitely welcome those opportunities and to share all the extensive effort you all have been putting in over the past years. So feel free.
Yeah, let Michael and Lauren, the chair entity here, Wes and Tara, let us put a little more meat on the bones, so to speak, of that idea, that event, and then maybe we'll see about whether we would seek other sponsors that would want to be a part of funding and making that event happen. See if we put out a request for sponsorship or something and give that opportunity once we have a little more comprehension of what exactly it is we're asking them to help fund and sponsor.
Any other final thoughts or comments on this Soil Water Conservation District roundtable event? Or anything regarding the report release coordination? I think we'll get into the full details on agency issued release coordination once we confirm. I think Tara and I were tentatively talking about November 15th. I don't know if it matters if it's a Monday or a Friday or anything like that, but
I think we were talking too about having basically a letter of support. So one letter that we would ask all agency leads to sign on to, right? That they support and endorse the state water plan and the concepts therein, so that would be the, director of IEPA and the director of DNR and Department of Ag and so on and so forth. So, but it would be one, and we'll draft, probably that's back on me, we'll draft one letter so it's just all directors are signing on to one short and sweet letter of support and endorsement that would go at the beginning of the report.
So again, we'll maybe try and aim for November 1st to get that out and circulated for signature. The sooner the better, I think, just to get signatures. As we know, sometimes those agencies are hard to, directors are difficult to sometimes get a hold of and pin down. So expect that to come out at the end of October, early November. Any other final comments about the release coordination? All right, hearing none, we'll just briefly talk about items 6 and 7, and that is the review of the schedule. I think we're kind of in, we don't have much schedule left to review, thankfully. So as Tara mentioned, we would love to get those final pieces from each topic lead by the end of October. So send those to Tara and myself once you submit, once you've had the chance. So please take an hour of your time or book in an hour or two to look through that information. Look at those measurable goals, look at the public comments, make sure you do a final review on your section and just get that wrapped up so that we can have confidence as we pull this together in early November that we have the best product we can have as the task force. As mentioned, we're going to look at a middle of November release, and we'll provide the clear details as we approach that date, making sure that we have all the final pieces of the puzzle that we need for that release. So we still got a couple of things we need on our end to get there, but that is the schedule we're currently holding to now. So with that, the last item on the agenda is the next meeting date. And for those of you who've kind of come to the task force during this process, the task force used to meet quarterly and giving updates. And what I see the next phase of this process or the implementation is maybe a more standard quarterly meeting instead of monthly or anything. I'll open that up for if anybody has any comments to that, but I guess looking at historical meetings, that's what it used to be. They would meet once every 3 months on a set, you know, the second Tuesday or something like that of these 4 months. So I guess I'm looking to see if everybody's kind of in agreement with that reoccurrence period. If we think meeting quarterly would be good, and the focus of that would be essentially going over the recommendations and giving a status update. And that could include that this recommendation was removed for this reason, this progress has been made on this recommendation, or maybe we even have a new recommendation that we're considering moving forward. So that's kind of part of that whole dynamic, living, breathing document that we want to make sure we're providing updates on to the public. It's my intention to kind of provide a summary of our progress after each of the task force meetings. So that's why we want to make sure something's measurable and we can show that progress has been made instead of just saying, yes, we're doing that. So that the public can see that we are moving forward with these initiatives. So I guess I'll open it up for any discussion, thoughts on, you know, that reoccurrence period and just anything else regarding what that meeting would look like.
I think quarterly sounds good to me. This is Lauren. As is in, I think some of it's even as a recommendation out of the integrated water management section. We're really looking to have the State Water Plan Task Force be more than just the plan. You know, that there'll be opportunities where we in essence provide kind of a pseudo governmental body that you know, as a point of collaboration and gets into directing if we are able to move forward on integrated water information center. You know, there'll be some discussion and essentially direction. We, in essence, serve as like a board of directors for that kind of a setup. So the State Water Plan Task Force, if we're able to move forward with some of these recommendations and development, will have more meat than just, you know, what is the status of your recommendation number 2, or, you know, but I think still quarterly gets that done. I just want to share that I think the task force, now that we're convened and functional and, you know, moving forward, will serve additional roles as well.
Guess I'll open up for any additional thoughts or comments to that.
Hey, Wes, you mentioned last month, or we talked a little bit about a updated website. So I don't think we would want to wait for a quarterly meeting, but maybe a subgroup meets to talk about how to incorporate different agencies' resources to update that and make the new version just to collaborate a little bit. But that wouldn't be the entire task force. It would just be people interested in getting the thoughts out there before we move to the next phase. Once the report's published, we want the website to be more living.
Yeah, and we kind of discussed that a little bit in our last meeting on what that would actually look like. I think we would work, that'd probably be a big push on my part once we get to the publication of this report, of kind of putting together what the website would look like as we enter in this implementation phase of the state water plan. But yeah, we would definitely, if anybody's interested in participating or providing feedback to that, I guess we'd open it to everybody on providing feedback. But if there's anybody that has a strong interest in that initiative, please reach out to me or throw something in chat, and I can kind of keep you in the loop as we transition the website from a developing the plan to implementing the plan. Any other thoughts or comments?
I guess one comment or thought I had is that Mondays appear to work pretty well for this group. It seems, especially as we've been meeting more frequently, it seems like Mondays tend to be the most open kind of days in the week for this group.
Yeah, we were hitting Monday at 9 a.m. fairly frequently there. I think we had a few conflicts that pushed us to the afternoon. So my thought is that our next meeting would likely fall in January. That's actually the rotation I think we used to have, was the January, April, July, October meeting schedule. So I don't know if we'd want to pull like a second Monday or a third Monday. I'm not sure if it...
The third Monday is a holiday.
So that's the downside of Mondays, is there's quite a few on the holiday. And we can always shift it, bump it a week or two before or after. Does anybody have any, I guess, thoughts, concerns? On meeting dates? Oh, Lauren, it sounds like you get your pick.
Yeah, I was just trying to look in general.
And we can pick in general, and if there's
like the second Monday of quarterly.
Second Monday quarterly, 9 a.m. Do we like the morning or afternoon? Speak now or forever hold your peace. What do you think, Lauren? You like morning or afternoon better?
Monday morning.
Or if anybody else has any comments.
This is BJ. For me, afternoons are better only on Mondays, only because it seems like Monday morning you have 1,000 emails that you need to kind of crank out, so.
Thought, BJ. I'm thinking more afternoon, like we met at 1 here today.
Does 1 o'clock work? Do we want to do 1:30 to give a little more
1,
buffer?
1:30.
1:30, second Monday? It's not a holiday for
No.
January, is it? Okay.
The 9th.
The 9th?
We did get a question, is it going to be remote or in person? And that's a good question.
For January, I think we plan remote. I think we do virtual just because the weather's always so uncertain in January. Where my mind was going is, do we alternate? Do we do virtual and then try to do it in person?
Well, we tried to do a hybrid. How long ago was that? I don't know, it was 6 months to a year ago. I don't know. Time always flies as I try and give reference. It's always longer than I thought. Does anybody, and I think it's easy for us here in DNR, we've always hosted the meetings here. We're happy to do that. Is anybody, I mean, I hesitate to say let's meet in person or do a hybrid, and then nobody really shows up, or they always choose the hybrid. So I'm curious for our task force members that are in other state agencies, if you have an interest in gathering in person sometime in the future. I know we got quite a few counterparts in Champaign-Urbana. Is there interest in gathering in person? Or does everybody like the convenience of remote?
I like the remote. Just makes it easier. Plus, we have people that are on the other side of the state, Laura and so forth, that would have to come all the way over from Champaign. Trent, I see,
I sort of like what Lauren was saying. Maybe we just plan once a year in person, just because I do think there is some collaboration that's a little bit better. These virtual meetings are pretty silent. And I sort of miss just getting input from people. But I'm just throwing it out there that it might be nice to meet in person, but not every time.
That's why I was wondering about, alternating, or at least once a year in person, and we could move that around, to different agencies, and then, maybe even be able to give an opportunity to have that agency's director or somebody be able to come in and do a welcome to the task force, or just keep some of that level plugged in if you're hosting, if we host at different sites once in a while.
I like that idea.
Everybody on board for maybe an annual in-person meeting and the other 3 be virtual? Okay.
So, yeah.
Sounds like we are all set then. I will, that's all we have for the agenda. I see we got a couple minutes left. If anybody has any final comments, thoughts, anything that won't be shared. Again, I'll just reiterate that we'll be doing the second Monday in January, which is January 9th will be our next meeting at 1:30 p.m. It will be virtual. Anybody have anything before we close? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Lauren moves.
Second and Michael.
All right. All right, well, thank you all. It's been moved and seconded to close. Thank you for joining us, and we're almost there.
Join me in getting to work on your section.
All right, thank you all. We appreciate your attendance.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.